Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the AVPN webinar on poverty eradication and rural community development through venture philanthropy. I am Stacy and in charge of membership services at Asian Venture Philanthropy Network. With us today is Mr. Elfi Othman. For those who are familiar, you will know that Elfi wears many hats. Today, he is representing PBMT Indonesia to talk about their unique model of microfinancing. I would also like to welcome our members to the session, and for others, a short introduction about AVPN. We are a membership-based organization headquartered in Singapore, working to promote venture philanthropy principles and methodologies in Asia. If you would like to engage with us, please contact me at stacy@avpn.asia. Before we proceed, a few housekeeping instructions. We will not take any questions during Elfi's presentation, which will last about 20 minutes, as we will conduct a Q&A after. During the webinar, please use the console to type in your questions, and I will collate them and raise the questions to Elfi at the end of his presentation. If you have further questions that are not answered by the end of the webinar, you can email us. The webinar recording will be posted on our website within the week. Without further ado, I will now hand over the presentation to Elfi. Elfi?
Hello everyone, my name is Elfi and today we are talking about poverty eradication. First and foremost, I would like to thank AVPN for presenting an opportunity for us, PBMT Social Ventures, to present in this webinar. As we all know, poverty is a global issue. It is perpetual, it's never ending. As nations develop, the income disparity gets wider. Microfinance seems to be the silver bullet towards poverty eradication. In today's example, we feel that microfinance is still important to eradicate poverty, but typically poverty of a different sector, meaning the poor that is economically active can benefit from microfinance. But what about the impoverished poor? The poor that actually do not have food on the table, the poor that actually needs a lot of hand-holding. Now, can microfinance help them? So today's example is a good example whereby microfinance still is relevant, but at the same time, we feel there's a need of programs before the microfinance to ensure that the poverty eradication is complete. Today we're gonna focus on an entity called PBMT Social Ventures, which is set up in Singapore. It's a not-for-profit entity, just set up about 2 months ago. At the back of PBMT Social Ventures are the founders, which are PBMT Indonesia. Now, BMT Indonesia for short had a working experience of about 12 years as a microfinance co-op. Typically, they are one of those success stories in Indonesia. They have a membership base of 2.1 million members and branches all across Indonesia, close to 800 branches. Their main focus is providing financial capital to what we term as the economically active poor that do not have access to the finance services but can actually partake in commerce activities. Now, these are the poor that typically are the members of PBMT Indonesia. Now, how do we put it back for those impoverished poor, as I mentioned earlier, the poorest of the poor? Can microfinance help them from the onset? Well, the answer is no, and today's presentation will show you a brief snapshot on how PBMT actually addressed this impoverished poor sector in Indonesia. As I mentioned earlier, PBMT-SV is a Singapore entity. It was set up as a venture philanthropic structure. We have advisors, social investment committees, and the management team to actually manage funds that are coming in. Since they are founded by the Indonesian office, we will use the same existing poverty elevation model of PBMT Indonesia. We are not only looking at poverty eradication in Indonesia, we would like to share this model with our friends in Southeast Asia. Typically, we are looking at people in Myanmar and Cambodia who have shown interest in this model. The aim of PBMT-SV is to elevate 200,000 individuals a year. Now, I have to go through all these formalities, which I think most of you are aware, whereby the structure and the flow of PBMT-SV as a venture philanthropic setup. We have donors that's coming in. They might be giving financial capital or non-financial capital support into the structure. And once money is within that structure, we then look out for poverty alleviation programs. We will call for proposals, not only in Indonesia, but in other parts of Southeast Asia. And from there on, any proposals that deserve to be looked at the second glance will then be presented to the investment committee. The investment committee will take a look at it and see whether it aligns with the PBMT Indonesia poverty alleviation model. It aligns with the objective of elevating 200,000 individuals per year, and will assess on the credibility and the substance of the programs itself. They would then approve the proposal, and then the PBMT Social Venture Management team would execute the program. There will be constant reporting in terms of update status of all these projects back to the funders and donors. Typically, this is the hallmark of a good VP structure, whereby we always keep the donors engaged and we always monitor the social projects and initiatives that we have on the market. Now let's look at the Indonesian context for a start. We know there's about 28 million poor people in Indonesia. The definition of poor in this case would be, according to the Indonesian standard, those that are earning less than 86 US cents per day. And this constitutes to 28 million people. If you look at it in another angle, it is close to the population of Malaysia. It is huge, it is daunting. This is the challenge that almost all NGOs and non-profit have when addressing poor people in Indonesia. Now, one might ask why we know that poverty is a global problem, but why is it important to address poverty, not only in Indonesia but in other parts of the world? Well, I mean, we feel that with less poor people, it means a more stable society, and more stable society means a better conducive environment for economic growth. The poor sector actually can contribute to the economic growth when given the chance. And social stability is key as well, bearing in mind that it has to be equal income distribution, equal opportunities will typically lead to community development and stability. So poverty alleviation should be the main focus of any developmental programs that we have, whether it's regionally or globally. Now, this is the approach that BMT takes in Indonesia. Over the last decade, when they engage the microfinance activities all across Indonesia, they've realized that there's always a segment of this impoverished poor that always remains poor. Now, can they be given just finance to elevate them? Answer is no. So BMT have realized that actually the impoverished poor, there's a few approaches that they have to make before they are investment ready or before microfinance can actually come to their assistance. Now, these are the three approaches that BMT Indonesia make. They feel that the importance of saving has not been impressed upon the impoverished poor even before the start of this journey. They feel that the impoverished poor are lacking of financial management, basic financial management exposure. If wanting to start a business or wanting to be self-sustainable, this is something that the poor are lacking. So BMT would really focus on saving as the main pillar of getting one out from the impoverished poor sector. The second point that BMT make when they address the impoverished poor is to have a specific product focus to the member. In other words, that it's not a one-size-fits-all. There are certain parts of Indonesia with certain parts of crops or certain parts of Indonesia that have a different kind of culture, and BMT are very sensitive to such things and making to ensure that their programs are relevant and aligned to the member expectations and needs. The third point that BMT has made to prove to be important when addressing this impoverished poor is there must be a start of social and philanthropic activity to this community. In other words, they need to give free food, they have access to free health, so that they can be a bit more stable when starting on their journey of being financial independence. Very happy community means a conducive community, and it will lead to a more stable local sub-economy as well. This will be the main slide of the presentation. Now this is the PBMT poverty elevation model. If you look at the purple dot, that is where I've stated or I've panned down as the economically active poor that are existing BMT members in the microfinance ecosystem. Typically, they are the 2.1 million members that I've addressed earlier in the slides. Now, if you look down, it is the red dot and the green dot that we are focusing for this presentation. How do we address them? How do we ensure that from red dot they would improve themselves to the green dot and eventually graduated to the purple dot? Let's start with the red dot, the poorest of the poor. Now, typically these are those farmers that do not have food on the table. They are not aware of basic financial management, things like saving education and so forth. They are not aware of technical assistance and community engagement around them. So this is quite challenging because they are starting from zero, starting even -10, because they have families, they have needs and so forth. So BMT feels that they need to address the red dot first before anything else. Now, how do you help them? By giving grants, free food, again pushing them the notion of how important saving education is, and giving them technical assistance, giving them basically source of best practices should they want to start farming or a small business. This engagement is quite painstaking, but BMT has started this engagement in because they feel that without this, no way that they can straight away graduated to the purple dot and start doing some good to themselves. Now, once they are stable and they conform to the BMT standards and expectation, they'll move down to the green or move up to the green dot. Now here, BMT will give them a non-commercial loan. Typically, on average, this is about $50 per poor people. It's not only just the loan; they'll give technical assistance, best practices on their particular business and engagement that they're doing with, and again focusing on financial management when running the business. The loan is but the definition of non-commercial loan is actually interest free, and it is not something that is fixed. The terms of payments or the time required to return back the loan varies from different poor and different businesses and so forth. Again, this is going back to the previous slides where we are actually tailor-made the loan or the financial services to the poor and not having a one-size-fits-all model. Now, from the green dot to the purple dot, this will be a good story because whatever engagement or whatever learning takeaways that BMT has from that individual poor from the green dot, they will assess are they actually ready for the moved up to the purple dot. In other words, a bigger loan, but with a different kind of structure. This is the microfinance of BMT arm. Now, the structure of these microfinance engagement are actually based on a Sharia compliant profit sharing model. On average, the profit sharing model goes about 70% goes to the poor and 30% goes to the BMT network. We feel that again this is very refreshing. Typically, microfinance based on the interest return model, it can be an additional burden to the farmers or to the poor. But for BMT's model, it's actually based on profit sharing. And BMT is very confident the delinquent rate is very low because whatever things that they need to learn and tweak about was done before earlier during the green dot engagement, during the non-commercial loan engagement as well. So those that have been in the purple dot are usually good customers, responsible customers, customers that really wanted to, they have this helping themselves first before they can help others. And this represents the 2.1 million members that BMT has under its network. Examples of the model. Mrs. Kari, which is 50 years old, took up the first, started off from the red dot and was given a lot of grants and startups engagement. When they moved to the green dot, the first financing is actually $50. She took up a term of 10 months and she did quite well. And the next financing is $500 and she took it up for 24 months. Now she has an income of $10 a day and she can actually save $2.50 a day. Similar examples can find Mr. Agus, but slightly a different trade. He's the motorcycle repairman. Again, took up the first non-commercial loan of $50, but was a bit more confident in saying that you can cover this within 5 months. The next round of financing is $500, and she took it up for 24 months and now managed to save about $2 a day. Now, engaging the poor is what I've spoken during the poverty elevation model slides. This is from the red dot to the green dot. This is key to all this poverty elevation process and engagement in Indonesia for the PBMT elevation model. Let's address the basic needs. That's the first point of this model. They have to be given free food for the poor for the initial engagement. They need to be fed. They need to be very strong. They need to be very focused doing the other engagement. So food is a basic need that needs to be given a kickstart to the impoverished poor. They also give education scholarship to the kids, to the children of the poor, so that all has been taken care of and the poor now is ready to be engaged once the basic needs are addressed. On top of those, food, healthcare is very important. BMT network gives free dental services and medical services to their poor, and you can see that they do have free clinics and free ambulance, and they work with other organizations to set up free hospital. There are 2 in Central Java at this point of time. Technical assistance and best practices are shared around the network, as examples shown in the slides. We, as much as possible, try to focus on being sustainable, at the same time being environmentally friendly. This is another example of how saving is being thrust to the network, focused to the network, and I cannot discount any other fact that BMT's engagement with the poor is really focused on the importance of saving and the importance of good financial management. Another example of saving, this is from the children's standpoint where they encourage the children to start early. Their definition of the popular quote that has been reflected in the slides, when they say saving will make you rich, the definition of rich is actually if you can save, you are rich. So it doesn't matter the size of the saving, but the fact that you are able to save, it shows that you are in a comfortable position. You should be in a good long-term position to actually improve your lives and the lives of your family. Microinsurance is another product within the BMT social engagement model or poverty elevation model. You can see from the slides, natural disasters do occur frequently in Indonesia. We see more on the mainstream media that big natural disasters, the big boys who come down and address those natural disasters efficiently. But what about the small tiny pockets of natural disasters? When they affect BMT members, this is where the social engagement arm of BMT comes into play. They would help their members to soften or to write off whatever they have lost in the natural disasters. Same goes for death. If a member took up a loan and died prematurely, BMT actually would write it off and would send some help to his family members so that they can restart their life without any difficulty. I'm just gonna give a snapshot of PBMT Indonesia, where they are now. As you can see, 780 units, branches and offices. They have close to 12,000 employees. They have a membership base of 2.1 million, and on average, one household person that is a member of BMT would have 4 or 5 other family members, and therefore the impact that they have now is about 8.7 million person. Again, having to pull you guys back to that main slide of PBMT poverty alleviation model, the purple dot, as I mentioned earlier, is the microfinance arm of BMT Indonesia. I think it's only fair that I mention something about this particular engagement, so that this would then represent the completeness of poverty alleviation model in Indonesia, from what we coin as the poorest of the poor or impoverished poor, or in this particular slide the red dot, up to the purple dot, where they would achieve the financial independence and they should be on a good wicket from where they were in the red dot. It is a very simplistic model as far as the microfinance arm is concerned. They do start off as getting investors into their investment office, which is BBMT Ventura, and from there they would then they would place the investment into various BMT's branches, which I've denoted as 780 in my earlier slides. And from that BMT branches, they will engage the economically active poor according to their own structure, own business model. There's a profit sharing mechanism, which I've indicated earlier. Due to the Sharia compliant nature, it's not interest based, it is profit share. And the profit share would then trickle back to the investors. Year on year for the last 5 years, investors has been enjoying an average of 10% returns on this particular investment model. It is for sure very sustainable. It is also very friendly in a way that it doesn't burden the farmers and the borrowers in this case, having to be backed down to an interest returning of their particular loan that they took up. To me, this differs slightly from the other microfinance model, and this is a way to go in terms of poverty alleviation via microfinance. Just a snapshot of financing by industry in the PBMT network. A huge percentage is on micro activities or micro trade, micro enterprise. 21% is on farming and agriculture, 11% on service, and 1% on consumptive. They are heavily based in Java, and they are looking to expand to other parts of Indonesia in due course. And that's about it I have at the moment. Please go to our website for further information. We'll be most happy to engage you on a personal level. We can give you a bit more of in-depth discussion and presentation. Our contacts are shown in this particular slide. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfie. Thank you so much, and keeping with the time. Hello? Yeah, can you hear me? Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'll quickly launch into the questions. We've got a couple of questions that have been submitted through the platform already. So for the rest of you, please key in the questions in the console, and we will take it in and ask directly to Alfie. So first question, Alfie, if the government offers health services to the poor, do you partner with agencies or do you provide the health services on your own?
Well, any form of assistance from whether government or non-government is welcome by BMT. It has to align to what the member needs. I think it's taken for granted that different parts of Indonesia have different needs and so forth. But going back to the question itself, we will most welcome any form of assistance, whether it's financial or non-financial, especially in the health sector.
Okay, fantastic. So the next question is about the investment part. How do you pay a 10% return to investors if there is no interest that's charged to the people?
The profit sharing mechanism, it is, as I mentioned earlier, it is Sharia compliant, and I think the main hallmark and benchmark of any Islamic finance is the lack of representative on interest-bearing instrument. So what we have is a profit sharing mechanism whereby on average 70% of the profits will be given back to the investee, which is the poor themselves, and then 30% will be given back to the management and the investors and the cost of running the investment. So it is based on a very average benchmark 70-30% profit sharing ratio in the Islamic financing context.
Okay. Another question that's related to this. What is the percentage distribution between grants, non-commercial loans, and commercial loans?
The main bulk of the engagement at the moment is to commercial loan. I do not have the actual percentage numbers as of now, but this is why we wanted to set up a social venture arm, because we feel at present organically we are taking profits from the commercial loan to help the social investment, the non-commercial loan, and the grant side. Now we could have kickstart or we could have boosted this a bit more if we get philanthropic dollars to address that social investment needs. So it is now mainly, I repeat myself, commercial loan based or microfinance as far as BMT is concerned, and from the profits out of there, it will be channeled to the social investment part.
Okay, sounds great. And now with regards to the grants, what is your the average grant and investment size?
The PBMT-SV, it is a new entity. I think what we are now looking is for anchor investor as of now. Of course, BMT Indonesia is supporting the setup cost. We are looking at in average about 250 onwards, $250,000 onwards, because it's the sheer size of looking at achieving 200,000 individuals to elevate themselves out of poverty. We feel that we need at least $10 million a year to achieve that target.
This is with regards to BMT social ventures, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so just to check with Richard, who asked the question, are you asking about BMT social ventures, or were you relating this back to PBMT? Maybe she can answer that later. Now, the next question, what are the factors that you consider to determine when to give grants?
I think it's based on a drawdown process whereby we need to get the proposal coming from the respective BMT branches. The Singapore office will be the gatekeeper of the funds. So if branch A in Central Java needs $2 million because they need to build 2 hospital clinics and fund 2,000 individual non-commercial loan, we need to assess that proposal. We need to look at the timeline. We need to look at the deliverables, and therefore, and from there, we need to present this to the investment committee for the final approval. Once this is done, we execute this, we measure this, we monitor this, and we make sure that things are into place.
Okay, and how do you find the potential investee? Do you partner with grassroots organizations? Also, do you use a cooperative model?
Yeah, I mean, by virtue of name of PBMT Social Ventures, we have strong links to PBMT Indonesia. But we will not close our gates and our doors to other organizations who are into poverty elevation as well. And not necessarily in Indonesia, but in other parts of Southeast Asia. As long as it aligns to our model, it aligns to our discipline of you have to save, you have to, start your, you have to initiate it, you have to, all the positive values that the organization has aligns to what the MT has. We will still want to open our doors to other possibilities as well, as far as investees are concerned.
Okay, sounds great. I think the issue also, as I received these questions, is some of the questions are directed at PBMT, and then some are on BMT, BMT social ventures. So it's not very clear which they are really targeting. Okay. Now the next question is asking, how do you incentivize a person to shift from green dot to purple? Would they not want to retain their sort of poor status to get non-commercial loans or even grants?
I think a lot have to do with the community angle in Indonesia. Being a co-op means that you, as a member of the co-op, you own the co-op itself, and if others succeed, you more likely than not is, I wouldn't want to say peer pressure, but I would say things like, it's just a normal momentum of any individual wants to succeed as much as possible. For the poor itself, they would find a feel good, feeling when you do have savings, and I think it's quite addictive. It's quite something that's attainable. They have seen that people have done it before. We have seen no issues about people wanting to stay in the green dot perpetually because there's no incentive to stay there in the first place.
Okay, I think because PBMT has such a strong experience in Indonesia, based on all the years of experience, that's why you would already know how to carry this forward. Okay, I still have a couple more questions, but I hope since we still have 10 minutes here, for the rest of the participants, please do send in more questions. Okay, one of the questions relate to how do you measure success for PBMT social ventures?
Okay, our aim is 20,000 people to elevate them from poverty to attain financial independence. Our benchmark will be they start from red dot, they have zero. On purple dot, they have savings in their account, in the microfinance co-op account. No matter how small the savings, it represents savings. Once they have managed to achieve sustainable savings, we can safely say that they have been elevated from poverty. So it is documented in that sense.
Okay, and maybe another final question before we wrap up. I'm not sure whether participants still have some questions out there though. Okay, the poverty line is a very fine one. How do we ensure that people who get out of poverty do not fall back in? What is your take on this?
Remember the financial management program when they start off with a red dot, where BMT has literally forced them the importance of savings, the importance of financial management as well. We'll give them all the tools that they need to be, sustainable as much as possible. But these things are beyond BMT at times. There could be some personal tragedy, there could be some even market forces that might, pull them back to where they were. But, to ensure that, to prevent this from happening, I think the engagement factor is always very critical. Being a co-op member means that your engagement is always there. It's not a, fly by me. It's a perpetual engagement to the lifetime, and this should continue towards the household as well. So I don't see that as an issue. But bearing that unforeseen circumstances of natural disasters, of business factors, these are beyond BMT or beyond ourselves as well.
Okay, I've just received some other questions that came in. What is the limit for the loan, and what is the period to return the loan? Is there a limit?
This is from an investor to BMT Ventura, or from BMT Venture that giving the loan to the poor. What equation are you looking at now?
Yeah, okay. Perhaps, I think familiar. Sorry?
Can I cover both then?
Sure, fantastic. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I think if any investor, equity or conventional investor who wants to invest in BMT Ventura, the microfinance arm in Indonesia, I think the term is about 3 to 5 years and annual returns of 10%. A minimum amount of $50,000 up to $500,000. So this is something that BMT will welcome the most. From the other side of the angle, if you are looking from BMT investing in the poor, the non-commercial loan is on average is about $50 per individual, and the average loan size of the next financing will be $500. The the timelines are between 10 to 15 months or so.
Okay. Okay, I have a really interesting question now, actually. Why do you want to expand outside of Indonesia? Isn't the experience in Indonesia unique to the country itself, and there is still a large need within Indonesia?
I did mention that we're going to be mainly focused in Indonesia, but we are also looking for, I mean, Southeast Asia, we think that we're going to get closer as we move along. Economically, you see a lot of ASEAN tied up and so forth. We would like to share, if possible, or if there's a demand, we wouldn't mind sharing this with people from Laos and Cambodia, which more or less share the same DNA of the Indonesian community as far as the poor is concerned. They are agrarian in nature, and that is a basic commonality among the people in ASEAN as well. So we are not saying that we're going to open branches in Laos and in Cambodia and so forth, but if an NGO equivalent to BMT wants to step up and say that, hey, can I know more about your model? Can you help me to set it up? We'll be more than happy to assist.
Fantastic. I think this is definitely following along the lines of what venture philanthropy is. If there is a proven model that is successful, we are all very happy to replicate this and to share it with other markets and other people who are keen to find out more, right?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So
Yeah.
we actually still have a couple of minutes left to the hour, and I don't have any further questions on the panel already. So, oh, okay, one just came in really. What about India? Do you think the grant non-commercial loans commercial model can scale in India? Yeah.
I mean, I have to be honest. I do not know in terms of practical sense what's happening in the in the India environment.
Mm-hmm.
What I know is what I read. I think India is fairly mature in the social investment space. They are, I think, years ahead of us. So it's not fair for me to judge on that. I think there's always scale. India is huge, and just like in Indonesia as well, there's room to improve. But I'm really not familiar with that ecosystem, to be honest.
Okay, fair enough. All right. So, actually, Alfie, anything else you want to wrap up since we still have a few minutes, given that you had to compress your presentation and all that rush and hassle over the technical problems?
Yeah. I think this is exciting stuff for us. Technically, we'll be the first ASEAN venture philanthropy model that we're going to set up from Singapore. We saw the need coming up from the wealth management sector when we set this up, and we hope that we get the same support from AVPN network and friends in terms of how do we move this up in terms of getting this into new heights. The academic world has been very supportive. We have academic writings from Institute of Southeast Asian Studies and Australian Defence Universities that have covered the work of BMT. They have been very supportive. And we are also looking at corporates, banks, and other investment funds that are wanting to hopefully come up and say that they need to do something in Indonesia and poverty elevation. That in itself is what our wish list is. On the business model of PBMT-SV, 80% is about poverty elevation, but we also engage the sector by having conference and events on poverty elevation in Singapore. That is something very useful for you all to know. And if we do set up an event, we hopefully can get the same support from the AVPN network. I think that's about it for now. In closing, I would like to thank all the participants for their time and patience, especially the fact that we were out for 10-15 minutes and I have to compress and rush my presentation. Feel free to contact me, or there's a contact email there, info@pbmtsv.com. It's a very new website, so hopefully you can bear that with us. We'll be more than happy to answer questions offline should there be any.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Alfie, and thank you everyone for this participating in this session. We will post the webinar recording. We'll try to edit out the earlier portion and also Alfie's presentation on our website by the end of this week. So do look out for that. We will also be arranging more webinars and events later this year, so watch out for our emails and newsletter on our activities. Thank you again for your time, and apologies on the technical problems. And Alfie, definitely AVPN will be very happy to welcome PBMT Social Ventures to the community. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Alfie.
Thank you. Thank you, Stacy.
All right, bye.
Bye.